All right, Megan. I brought you in here for one of your favorite shows ever. I'm just kidding, guys. Okay. Mostly, as far as I know. I mean, Adrian probably thinks differently. He's probably like, yeah, yeah, this makes sense. But,
Oh my god.
with that being said, I'm just gonna preface this. This is just like for critical thinking on propaganda. Um, I want to see this speech. I've heard a lot about it, right? And I want to see what is it um, that made Hitler's speech so compelling, right? Like what makes normal people, and I'm going to assume that a lot of them were just normal people at first. What makes them radical? I know a lot about the history of this era. I loved reading about World War One, World War Two when I was a kid. Just like the history of it, it was interesting, like it is to many young men. So I just wanted to reflect that what I say, I'm going to try to look at this from the sympathetic point of view for the common people of the time. And by just doing that, it doesn't mean I endorse, obviously what the Nazis did. You'd have to be a kind of a monster to be like, well, maybe they weren't wrong though.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've had family members die from it, so.
Well, falling off guard towers. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Bad jokes aside. Bad jokes aside. Let's watch it. It's a 13-minute speech. So man, this dude, he was going the distance, I guess.
I really hope I don't say Hitler was right about me.
You know what though? If we're objectively listening to it, right? If we're objectively listening to it, we're probably going to listen. And this is like where critical thinking comes into play. We are probably going to find things that we agree with, and we're going to find things we disagree with. And then I'll try
Yeah.
to put some historical context as we're listening. But we're going to listen for about let's try to do it like a minute at a time, and then respond on what that minute is, or if there seems to be like a decent place to start, I'll stop there.
Okay.
All right. So without further ado, let's watch.
This video discusses historical events involving extremist ideologies.
Maybe I should have just read this disclaimer.
Purposes only, and does not endorse or promote any views, actions, or groups mentioned. Viewer discretion is advised. The content is presented to provide historical context and understanding. Any hateful or
the context I'm trying to add is sympathy for everyday people and how everyday people of that time period might have got radicalized. I just wanted to add that in there.
Extremist beliefs referenced are firmly rejected. The creators of this video do not support discrimination, violence, or prejudice in any form.
I don't know about that, man. I don't know. It said made by AI. I've seen some crazy AI messages.
The material may contain
disturbing themes related to violence and all right, let's move serious.
A struggle that began over a century ago, the moment when Jews were granted the rights of citizens in European nations.
I have to stop right there.
Okay, that started off really strong, and I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, I am going to say this line right there, and I had to stop it as well, because that is pure propaganda, or not propaganda. That's making an enemy that people can ally against, people rally against, right? So he's using that speech, even though it's not super right. If you just listen to that one thing, you could be like, oh, maybe there's immigration problems or something. But that's the start of it. That's the start of how he's turning the hatred and rage that they have for the situation they're in to the Jews.
That single act of so-called emancipation marked the beginning of a catastrophe. It granted equality to a people who were never meant to be equal. are people who have always existed as a nation within nations, pursuing their own interests while wearing the mask of citizenship. This transformation did not happen overnight. It crept forward gradually, first one concession, then another, still until a people who had been recognized as entirely foreign just 100 years before had obtained every right belonging to native Germans.
So here he is talking about essentially what he's claiming is that the Jewish people never give up their identity. They never try to identify as fully German. They don't adapt to the culture.
Yeah.
Is what he's saying. He's saying that by giving them equal status as Germans without them adapting to the culture, they are in many ways taking advantages of the German system while never fully integrating into it. And you can
Right.
see parallels of that today. And he's speaking to a post-World War I German people. And I'll add more context to that later, but let's continue watching. I just wanted you to show you why this might resonate to the common people, and I'm going to wrap it around that perspective. What the common people were thinking at that time period.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue.
The same pattern unfolded in economic life. As industry grew and masses of workers flooded into the cities, a new financial system arose. The stock exchange gained power over national economies. Banks extended their reach into every corner of commerce, and who stood at the center of this new financial order? I say to you plainly, it was not the Germans. The institutions of international finance operate according to principles entirely foreign to the German character. They serve interests that have nothing to do with the welfare of our people. Consider the difference between Western Europe and Central Europe. In England and France, the process of industrialization drew farm workers into the cities. But in those countries, the foreign element remained small in number, so small that they could blend into the population and escape notice. The ordinary Englishman encountered them only as fellow businessmen, as captains of industry, never recognizing them as something apart. This is why certain political ideas took root so easily in the West. When the mass...
Let's stop right there. So he's targeting the banks, and this is like a common racist trope about Jewish people, like always being tied with money. It's really unfounded, but people are willing to believe it at that time because on post World War I, essentially there was two giant groups of funders of World War I. Right? Germany didn't fund the war itself, and neither did the allies of World War I. You know, we could call them the good guys, call them whatever you want. They also didn't fund themselves. So you had big names, a lot of them that you'd recognize, like J.P. Morgan was one of the big ones. You know, you had the Soros family was still around back then as part of these big industries, though the Soros family came to prominence more so after World War II than in World War I. But you had J.P. Morgan on one side and essentially like a, you know, call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it a cabal. Oh, excuse me. A cabal of banks and stuff funding World War I. And essentially what they were doing was they were placing like a massive bet that Europe would win and Germany would lose. A massive bet. And then when the war was won, and they're also the people that convinced us to get involved in the war, you know. And then when the war was won, what they did is in the treaty of that time period, they forced all the debt to be paid off by Germany. So Germany was growing its industry, producing more than ever, but their money was virtually worthless because they had to pay their debt. They're paying off the entire war. And they nearly got some of that economic force back in the late 20s. And then the Great Depression happened and it kind of wrecked them again. So this is the historic time frame. Like there's videos of people using like German coins, like the German 10 coin, like 10-cent piece at the time. I forget what it was called. Start fires worth because it wasn't worth anything, you know? And at that time also the German people were getting paid 2 times a day so that their money would have value, because sometimes if they're only getting paid once a day or once a week, their money would lose value before they could get home off of work to buy stuff with it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so imagine living like that where your work is almost worthless. Your country's in debt. The political parties don't seem to be trying to help the public people at all. And then you have this guy, this Hitler guy, who, maybe he talks some crazy stuff about some things, but then he's talking about the banks, right?
Yeah.
And so I just want to show you what the absolute torture that regular life was for the average German person. And you had young men, in their, late teens, early 20s that were too young to have fought in World War One, but old enough to have the weight of all the consequences of them losing the war on them. These were children essentially who had done nothing. They weren't part of the war. They didn't vote for the war. They had nothing to do with the war. And the debt of the war was transferred to them. They were suffering from it. And I think you can know what sort of resentment would build up from that. And you'd have to be inhuman to not have a little bit of sympathy for people put in that position. And our president at the time, who originally had signed on and endorsed this treaty. Oh God, what was I really wish I remembered the name of the treaty. But I want to say it was Woodrow Wilson, I think. Either way, the president, in his later years, one of the things he said before he died was that he regretted transferring the debt to the German people who had done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
He owned up to it later on in life once he realized how fucked over he had fucked the world. And these same financial powers, the same financial backers and stuff like that, would gain even more crazy amounts of money during World War II by doing the same thing. Anyway.
So what you're saying is that World War II is completely preventable.
World War II wasn't preventable, but the reason why we got in it is definitely because there's two reasons why. The first reason is because we forced the German people under this treaty. It was definitely a major contributor to World War II. And the second reason was because America wasn't going to get involved in World War II at all. Was because these big bankers went to a whole bunch of politicians that they were essentially bankrolling and convinced them to spread the message on why we should get into World War II. They devised plans on how to get us into World War II.
For a second, I thought you were saying that we were part of the reason why they went bankrupt and went crazy for a second there. That's what
we were.
That's why I said that.
Yeah, we were part of the reason that they went bankrupt and went crazy. Yeah, we helped write the treaties.
Oh shit! Well, okay, so I was on the right track here.
Yeah,
okay, I just looked up from a map, so.
Yeah, no, you were right. You're right. Okay, let's continue listening.
Okay.
Cannot identify who truly guides them. They can be led to believe they are governing themselves. They call this system democracy. But what is democracy in practice? It is the rule of quantity over quality. It is the triumph of manipulation over wisdom.
There's a lot of truth to what he's saying right there. A pure democracy where you vote and every vote is counted once eventually will end up being the tyranny of the majority. And so all the little voices won't be heard. If the majority believes one thing, and what he's saying here is that the regular German people were being misled. He said they were being deceived into thinking that they were free to make their own choices and to live their own life. However, it was all systematic so that they would all vote the same way and keep them just behaving like worker drones. That's essentially what he's saying. He's the majority is only the majority because the average person is ignorant of who's controlling them. That's
damn. That's deep.
Yeah, he's a really good speaker.
Designed to ensure that the masses believe they are free.
There you go. Like, I'm glad
No,
so he said it complicated at first where you'd have to think about it, and then he spoke plainly so that the average person would understand.
he seemed like a very, like, not to sound, whatever. He sounded like very intelligent when he spoke.
Yeah, he was at least a good orator, which just means a good speaker.
While
Yeah, yeah.
purposes they do not understand. Look at how this system operates. There are always two parties, sometimes three, who appear to oppose one another. The public watches them fight. When one party exhausts public patience, the other takes power, and the cycle repeats. The people believe they have made a choice. In reality, nothing has changed.
He's not wrong. And this is what makes his speech so compelling. I'm going to say it plainly, the reason why his speech is so compelling, because you feel it. Guarantee you feel it. If you even have just a little bit of knowledge, you resonate with what he just said there. It's the same thing here in the American political system.
Right.
And this is what makes the rest of what he said, like the manipulation and the propaganda part of it, so effective, is because he's sprinkling in things like this, which are true.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah, that was good.
The word freedom is constantly invoked. But what does freedom mean to those who rule? It means freedom to pursue their interest without interference. And what does freedom mean to the common man? He believes it means he can say what he likes and go where he pleases. He does not realize that the freedom to speak means nothing when the words that shape opinion are controlled by others. Germany's path has been different. Here, loyalty has traditionally centered on the person of the monarch, on the army, on the state. The German spirit resisted the corruption that infected the West. The peasantry remained healthy. The intellectual class remained German. When industry grew here, there existed the possibility that workers might unite with traditional German institutions rather than against them. This possibility represented a mortal threat to certain interests.
I don't know the intellectual way to say this, but essentially right now, he's glazing the common worker. That's what he's doing right there. He said, and though they tried to take over, you, the common German man, maintained your health. You, the common German man, still played big roles in intellectual circles. Like, you didn't let yourself degrade in the way they wanted you to. So he's saying that now, like, this is like a subtle, like, it's a subtle, like, cue to the audience, right? Like, even though there's all this terrible stuff that I've just pointed out, we can change it. Because we didn't give up our brains. We didn't give up our health. We don't blindly follow where they tell us to do. We question things still. God, what a good speaker,
crazy.
Bro. Yeah, I know, right? It's like, it's
He's a
absolutely
really good
insane.
speaker. And he really, I should say this in like a way, like he really twists his words a bit to make it feel like the German people are really important.
Yeah.
But to manipulate them.
Yeah, and it just, I mean, it just goes back to what a lot of people said. Great speaker, because you have to write your speech in such a way where you just tell them all this awful shit, right? And stuff that these people are actually going through, like the banks controlling everything and blah blah blah. And then you have to also say, hey, but it's not hopeless, elect me. That's what he's saying,
right?
He's like, I'll guide you to the Germany you want. That's what he's saying.
If German workers had joined hands with German nationalists, if the energy of the industrial masses had been directed towards strengthening the nation rather than tearing it apart, then Germany would have become unconquerable. This is precisely...
I'll add a little historical context. German, like Hitler was a strong believer that that he believed that Germany wasn't really beat militarily. He believed that they were beat from like internal stuff in World War One. So in World War One, there was like a prevalent myth that went around saying that Germany didn't lose militarily. They lost because there were traitors on the inside that essentially sabotaged them.
Right.
He never names who it is, right? It's just some shadowy figure, but he believed it. That's what he believed. So I just wanted to like tell you what he's talking about.
Okay.
Had to be prevented, and so the workers' movement was captured. The working class had legitimate grievances. Their labor built the factories and generated the wealth, yet they lived in poverty while others prospered.
He's talking about the German people who work to build all this industry. They're generating wealth, but that wealth is being transferred outside the country. So the workers and the people are benefiting nothing. Man.
A genuine workers' movement.
Maybe we could just watch this and he would have explained it all himself.
For the better. Instead, the movement was steered in a different direction. It was given an international character. Workers were taught to see themselves not as Germans first, but as members of a global class whose interests conflicted with their own nation. They were taught that patriotism was a trick used by their oppressors. Consider how perfectly this served certain purposes. A German worker who loves his country will fight to strengthen it. A German worker who has been taught to despise his country will fight to weaken it. The same energy directed toward opposite ends and the doctrine they were given. This Marxism,
Holy shit.
what does it actually teach? That property itself is theft. That the individual has no right to the fruits of his own labor. That everything must be held in common, controlled by those who claim to speak for the collective. What honest German could accept such a doctrine?
Is it wrong that I kind of agree with this?
No, and see, this
Like-
is why I wanted to talk about this, is because this is, I knew it was going to be like a master class in public speaking, and you just have to give credit where it's due. You can disagree with everything he ended up doing, and still agree with certain things that he believed. He's
'Cause,
exactly
like,
right. He's exactly right
Because
there.
there's something I've been saying has been like,
Yeah.
like for the American people, America should be caring more about us than about conflicts in other countries.
Yeah,
Is what I've been saying.
I was gonna point out the
What the heck is going on?
what is duplicitous? No, not duplicitous. That's the
Yeah.
wrong word. I was gonna point out the parallels
Yeah.
between them and now, and what you hear now and what you hear then, and like what honest German could accept such a doctrine. Exactly right. Exactly right. They're being taught to try to hate themselves. But let's continue watching, because he's probably gonna, once he glazes them up a bit, right, makes the reception warmer, he's probably going to, what usually happens after this is they'll pick a target, right? Something to unify the country against, another hatred, right? So he chose the Jews first, and then the banks, and then he tied those two together. Then he glazed the common worker. He's like congratulated them on staying healthy and intelligent and all this other stuff. So what?
He didn't go after Jews first.
No, he did in his speech. I'm talking about the speech. Yeah, I'm talking about the speech and the power of manipulation. So he started this speech by talking about the Jews.
What productive citizen could believe that his own efforts entitle him to nothing? The skilled worker, the engineer, the farmer who improves his land, they know in their bones that this theory is false. And so the intellectual class was driven away from the workers' movement. The people who might have provided real leadership were replaced by professional agitators whose loyalty lay elsewhere. Today we see the results of this long campaign. Look at Russia. There you can witness the final destination of this path. A once great civilization reduced to chaos, churches plundered, their treasures vanished without trace. The productive classes destroyed, millions starving, while those in power...
So he's bringing up an example of their neighbors who during this time Stalin had taken over. And he's like showing the destruction of the
Russia?
common worker, like the farmers being replaced, the churches being attacked. He's showing them examples like of it. So he's building his case.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
In luxury, an entire nation transformed into a colony to be exploited, and the same forces are at work here in Germany. Our economy deteriorates daily.
All right.
Prices rise while wages buy less. Honest
Yep.
Germans struggle to feed their families, while speculators grow rich from the nation's...
He keeps alluding to like the enemy here. The enemy.
misery.
Yeah, I can see
Stock
that.
exchange celebrates while the factory worker
Yeah.
despairs. Political life has become a circus. Those who should protect German interests instead grovel before foreign powers. We
There
are
you go.
told to be patient, to accept our humiliation.
There you go.
You know what?
So
You know what I hate about this is that I just said the same thing a couple minutes ago about the American people.
yep. And then you see how he's turning it. He didn't make it about the fact that they couldn't do it. He didn't make it purely about the economy. He didn't even make it purely about anything yet. And then he's talking about the current political powers at that time, where, essentially just telling the German people, like, oh, we just have to suffer together. We'll make it through. We'll get to the other side of this, blah, blah, blah. We just have to keep trying. While essentially the two powers that funded the war were getting rich from them. They're getting rich from their supplies, from the product of their work. And he phrases it pretty brilliantly, I think, in humiliation.
Right.
To trust that goodwill
crazy.
from abroad will save us. Where is this goodwill? I see only contempt.
There you go.
Other nations do not respect our weakness.
And then he caps that off by saying that if we do this, these other countries will give us goodwill. And then he's saying, but all he sees is contempt for them. It's crazy.
This is gonna be kind of off topic.
Yeah.
But people probably should have known that something was weird about the whole Nazi party when they took the sign for peace and turned it sideways.
I mean, maybe.
That's symbolism right there.
Maybe. Yeah. And he's just saying,
They exploit it. Every concession we make is
there you go.
new demands. Every sign of submission invites further humiliation.
Wow.
Why does the world treat Germany this way? Not because of the German people, who have shown they desire only to live in peace and rebuild their nation. It is because powerful interests profit from German weakness. A strong Germany would upset arrangements that benefit others, and so Germany must be kept weak. The German people are beginning to awaken. The old slogans are losing their power. Workers no longer believe that international solidarity will improve their lives. They have seen how they are used as tools in conflicts they do not understand.
So right now, like this is propaganda right here, right? Subtle. He's putting thoughts in their heads. Right. You see how he's speaking, not from his perspective, not from what he believes, but he says, the German worker, the German people are no longer falling for that. The old slogans of these old politicians aren't working anymore. They're losing their effectiveness. It's something that people can gravitate to and be like, yeah.
That's sneaky.
For lack of a better word, yeah, that's what I think.
Right.
So so that's kind of like, I wanted to bring up that because that's kind of like how propaganda works, like subtle propaganda. It's less thinking for you, and it's more putting something close enough to how you think that you would accept it as your own.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I do think that way, actually, is what he's trying to make you do.
Yeah.
their living standards fall while they are told that their suffering serves a higher purpose. The promise that foreign nations would treat us fairly if we only disarmed.
Yeah.
If we only paid, if we only submitted. This promise.
So at the end of the war, they're also forced to completely disarm, and then the entire debt of World War One was transferred to them.
Right.
Yeah, rough.
Has been exposed as hollow. We disarmed, they remained armed, we paid, they demanded more. We submitted, they despised us for it. Throughout Germany, men and women are beginning to ask different questions.
There you go. Here it is again.
The path they were told to follow leads only to ruin. They are searching for a new direction. This awakening terrifies those who benefit from German weakness.
Yeah, and so that there it is, planting the thoughts again. Like, yeah, they're beginning to ask a different question. They're beginning to awaken. They're looking for somebody that's not the other two political parties. I wonder who they could be looking for. Oh, me. You know, me. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
It's so good though. It's so well done.
Old methods of control failing. They see a population that can no longer be managed with worn-out phrases. And they know that if this awakening continues, their position is doomed. What is the idea that threatens them so greatly? It is simply this, that the German nation must become a genuine community, that Germans of all stations, workers and managers, farmers and scholars, must recognize their common bond and work together for common goals, that the welfare of the nation must take precedence over the profits of speculators and the theories of internationalists. This idea is called many things by those who oppose it. They call it reaction. They call it extremism. They call it dangerous. I call it common sense.
So he's taking all the negative things people were saying about him. People were saying about, you know, people of contrarian ideas, and he's essentially just disregarding all that. He's like, oh, ignore all that. It's common sense.
Right.
What is socialism, properly understood? It is the recognition that we rise or fall together, that the prosperity of one German depends on the prosperity of all Germans.
Yep.
That a nation cannot thrive when millions of its people live in misery. The man who puts his people above himself, who sees Germany's future as more important than his personal comfort, who would sacrifice his own interests for the nation. That man understands.
Yeah, I'll take a partially burnt sandwich.
It is the recognition
Thanks,
that
Aaron.
German people possess a unique character, a unique heritage, a unique...
All right, so this is where he's pushing for his ideals. He's essentially... This is his selling. His selling is the rise and fall together. He's promoting more nationalism in this. He's giving them a way out, like he's offering a solution.
Right.
Destiny, that we have no obligation to dissolve ourselves into some abstract humanity, that our duty is to our own people first. These two ideas, national and social, are not opposites. They belong together.
There you go.
A movement that is truly national will care for all its people. A movement that is truly social will strengthen the nation that makes community possible. The struggle ahead will be difficult. Those who have thrived on German weakness will not surrender their position willingly. They control powerful instruments.
And then there's a call to action here. So he's essentially saying that, in his opinion, they won't just give up on essentially their like workhorse. They won't just allow them to do it. So you're gonna have to fight for it.
The press that shapes opinion, the financial systems that control commerce, the international networks that can pressure any nation that defies them. They are already working to silence opposition. Laws are passed in the name of protecting the republic that are actually designed to protect those who are destroying the republic. Anyone who speaks uncomfortable truths is labeled a criminal, an extremist.
So he's saying, I'm not what they call me, essentially. Like, this movement isn't bad like they say it is.
A threat to public order. We have experienced this ourselves. For 3 years we have spoken out, and for 3 years we have been attacked, slandered, and persecuted. Some of our members have seen the inside of prison cells, but we do not retreat. We cannot retreat. We see too clearly what awaits Germany if the current path continues. We would rather face persecution for speaking truth than enjoy comfort through cowardly silence.
This is camaraderie, essentially. This is great speaking. So what he's saying right now is like, we're not asking you to do this alone. You know, we want you to join us. You'll have to take these risks, but we're taking them too, and we already have.
I speak now especially to those.
Anyway, I should let you speak, Megan. What do you think about that? I'm over here like blah 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 blah, just like ignoring.
Dude, all I think is like I could see why this worked because he was an amazing speaker, like seriously good speaker.
Yeah.
And he made the American people feel seen. Obviously, there's a bunch of people who actually clocked him immediately, but
Yeah.
But he also planted ideas into their heads, like this is what you guys actually want, and then they're like, you know what? I never
Yeah.
thought about that before.
Yeah, and the reason
So-
I brought in the historical context of this and the way that the debt was transferred is to because everybody knows Hitler's bad, right? Because we're looking from the future into the past. We know the atrocities he was going to do. But I was wondering, like when I was listening to this, I was like, or while we are listening to this, you know, and before I listened to this, because I read comments on it that people said it was like, there's like Instagram people are like, wow, this stuff is good. But I was trying to avoid spoilers. But it was to show like a sympathetic perspective for why the average person of that time would begin to believe it, and like how they were able to be radicalized so easily.
Well, there's actually
Well, not even easily, but like how they were able to be radicalized.
So during this time, around this time after he had gotten elected, there was a bunch. There's actually a picture of him in the. Not a picture of him, but a picture of the Olympics. And people are doing the Nazi salute.
Yeah, no, I saw those videos of people doing a Nazi salute too. But yeah, no, that's what I was talking about. Like in these speeches are good enough that if you're not looking for the manipulation, you'll start to be like nodding your head if you're not actively thinking, because you're like, oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
it's crazy how good of a speaker he was.
The problem is there's still people today who are like, Hitler did nothing wrong. He didn't actually kill anybody. That was all propaganda. Fucking Poland did it. Stuff like that.
Let's knock that off, Megan. That's the type of stuff that we can't talk about. That's crazy. That's crazy words.
Offer you speeches. They will train you to talk.
I'm not about that life.
To participate in their endless parliamentary games. They offer you a seat at a table where nothing is ever decided. We offer you something different.
And that's him just saying, dude, these other guys, man, they suck. They offer you a seat at a table, but nothing's done. He's like, we're going to do shit.
We offer you struggle. We offer you sacrifice.
That's good. That is good. We offer you struggle. We offer you sacrifice.
You know, if it wasn't
Holy
for the
hell,
fact
that's
that Hitler
good.
said that, if it wasn't for the fact that Hitler said that, that would be a great quote right there.
You just, I mean, honestly, you should still take it as a great quote. That's a fantastic quote.
I'm not going to quote him,
dude,
though.
because what that does is that it appeals to that appeals to young people in general, like especially young men, though. Young men who are looking for a place of purpose and a life that feels meaningless.
Some of you may face violence, but consider this: if our enemies hate you at 18 or 19, you have already achieved what many men never achieved.
Look at that. The direct call to action, the direct call to purpose. If our enemies hate you at 18 and 19, you've already achieved what many men never achieve. He's like essentially saying you are worthy enough to be hated.
Bro,
that is crazy.
That was.
Dude, I thought the first part was good. That was
even a lifetime.
Crazy good.
You have shown that you matter. You have shown that you pose a genuine threat to those
Wow.
who are destroying your country. The forces arrayed against us are powerful, but they are not invincible. They depend on keeping the German people confused, divided, and hopeless. They depend on Germans believing that there is no alternative to continued decline. We offer an alternative. We offer a vision of Germany restored, not the Germany of defeat and humiliation, but a Germany of strength and honor, a Germany where workers are respected.
And he keeps doubling down on it. He's doubling, tripling, quadrupling down. Like, they are offering a Germany where everything is worthless. We're offering you a Germany where we are respected, where our stuff
Holy
is valued,
crap,
where we are good, and we're not poor, and we're not in poverty, and we're not struggling. He's like, I'm offering you a chance of life. That's crazy good.
Where families can prosper, where young people have a future worth building. The battle we face will not be decided by lawyers in courtrooms or politicians in parliament. History is made by those who act, by those who risk everything for what they believe, by those who refuse to accept that decline is inevitable.
I'm going to tell you guys again, the reason why his speeches were so good is because inevitably this is true. Who wins in the end? 99% of the time, the people that win in the end are people that never give up. They never stop fighting for it. They never quit. That's who wins. He's like, and this is like a truth older than God only knows how old this truth is, but it's been around. Like you'll see Egyptians' writings on it. You know, like this sentiment's been around a long time. Quitters never prosper, or whatever that is. Crazy.
I am convinced.
Oh man, it just occurred to me this speech was almost 100 years ago.
Yep.
A new Germany will arise. Not the broken
By nearly you mean it was 100 years?
German nation. A nation
I'm
where
just kidding.
Germans are masters
Or was
of their
am I?
own
Hold up.
house. A nation worthy of
Hold up. 1922.
Oh, it was
2020.
1922?
Yeah, it is over 100 years ago.
I thought it was 1929 for some reason.
Yeah, 1922. This is one of his first speeches in Munich.
That Germany is worth fighting for. That Germany is worth suffering for. That Germany is worth suffering for. The hour demands that we resist, that we stand firm, that we never surrender our vision of what Germany can become. This is the path we have chosen. This is the path that leads forward. And this is the path that will one day lead to a Germany that fulfills the dreams of our ancestors. A Germany truly of the German people.
This speech was delivered in Munich, 1922. 11 years later,
That is crazy.
Really good speech.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a
Unfortunately
really
good, right?
good speech.
Yeah. But you see,
I hate that.
yeah, well, yeah, I know, right? It's one of those uncomfortable things. And we have like a defensive reaction to it because Hitler was so unquestionably bad that we
He
try
was
to look.
probably the most evil man in history, right?
I don't know.
And
there's a lot of evil people in history. I don't know if he's the most evil,
last
but
100
he's up
years.
there. He's up there.
The last 100 years, okay?
I think Mao has him beat probably,
Okay.
but there isn't
But
many
no, that
people.
was-
Right? It's a short list, and he's on it.
It's a short list, but he's on it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, and
Damn,
it's
that was a good speech.
yeah, it's unquestionably good. But you can see like how he targets the Jews first, and then he connects them to the bank, right? Oh, these evil people are working together, and then he starts talking about foreign interests, right? And later on, he'll start tying, like later on in speeches, he'll start tying those back, to the Jews again.
So he just plants the seed here.
Yeah. Plants the seed, waters it, and waits for it, and he adds in enough truth, right? He adds in enough truth where people start to just kind of blindly nod your heads. Like if you weren't actually thinking about it, and if we didn't know this was Hitler, you might listen to this speech and be like, oh yeah, not bad. Yeah. Oh yeah, fuck those people. Yeah. What? You offered me a chance to be a man? Fight for something? Sacrifice for something? Like, and think about
See,
that.
that's
And
part
think
of
about the
the
fact that he's not talking to us today in America, first world country, right? He's talking to people that almost all of Germany was living in poverty.
basically a third world country.
Yeah, yeah, because all their labor and all the what do you call it? All the product of their labor was all being taken.
Not gonna lie, I think that speech probably would have worked on me if I were a man and back in the 20s.
Yeah, and yeah, and you know what? There's no harm in admitting that, right? There's like that would have worked on. It obviously worked on a lot of people, you know. Like,
Right.
and people like to pretend like, oh, only Germans fell for Hitler's speech. No, that's not true. That's not true. He had supporters here in America. He had supporters all over the world who thought he was
Well,
right.
look at the Olympics.
Yeah.
They had literally had it where people were doing the Nazi salute at the Olympics.
Well, and he was he was Times Man of the Year a few years running.
Right.
So
That
all
was
I'm saying is it worked on a
crazy.
lot of people. You're not alone on that. But it's a hard topic to talk about because of the taboo around it, you know? However,
Yeah.
if you want to learn about how manipulation happens through public speeches, if you want to learn like what propaganda looks like, you have to look at the speeches of great propagandists. And the best part of that speech is when he starts speaking from the perspective of a German worker. Like,
I
it
think
just
we
sits
should
there.
I think we should review more speeches from back in the day from other great politicians and stuff.
Yeah, it'd be good. It'd be good to analyze those too. I mean, even though I'm a pretty terrible analyst because I speak in Derek terms and not in intellectual fancy people terms.
Yeah.
but
Whole.
but at least I can pick up like where it is usually. But it doesn't mean it doesn't
Right.
resonate slightly, right? And that's how you know an effective speaker or how effective a speaker is when you start to feel it, you know? But that being said,
Yeah.
guys, this is for educational purposes. I hope you liked it. It's a little bit weirder than weirder. It's a little bit different from our normal or my normal stuff. But I wanted to give people like, I don't know, it's so important for critical thinking is so important. I kind of just wanted to put something on my channel that would help people like think through what's being told to them. Because I've noticed it recently, and I'm not gonna like name politicians or whatever right now, but I've noticed it recently where sometimes people are so bought in by propaganda they don't even realize they're being manipulated in live time, either emotionally or intellectually. Like people are being manipulated constantly by stuff. And I don't
Right.
think that enough people sit and critically think about what's being said.
Right. No, I agree.
But not you guys, though, 50 subscribers. If you subscribe to me, you're automatically thinking at least 4 times better. But yeah. All right. I'll see you guys in the next one, and we'll probably react to a different speech. But I hope you had a good time, and
Yeah.
maybe you learned something like that. And thanks for putting up with me and my scratchy throat today.
Also, disclaimer: we don't endorse Hitler at all.
The only
So,
Hitler I endorse is if he had a hot daughter. 2 thumbs away. No,
anyways,
I'm just kidding.
we love you guys. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye bye.